I don't have time to even think about being afraid of something. I really don't. I just do it. Life is too short. You choose to be afraid of life. You choose to die of cancer. You choose to thrive, no matter what the diagnosis is.
Hell yeah. Let's start there. Welcome to another episode of Everyday Badassery. I'm your host, Lozada, and today we are traveling in Stuart, Florida. We're in South Florida, and we're meeting up with a badass 71-year-old traveler that I have been fangirling for over a year. I'm convinced she wrestles alligators in her free time, but Pamm is an amazing, unstoppable, well-accomplished traveler who adventures so hard and truly puts my adventuring to shame. And I'm so inspired by the conversation that she and I had today. I may have broken her ribs, literally, by the end of the conversation. You'll literally see it on video at the end. But prior to that, she shares one heck of a story that I cannot wait to bring you in on. So let's dive in. Has there ever been a moment in your life that you were afraid?
No. Never occurred to me.
I want to say why, but I'm like, how does one answer that?
I had two people as role models, my parents. Dad was a fighter pilot off the Midway. He got waved off a landing and ended up ditching the plane in the ocean. Had to knock out his co-pilot and drag him back to the ship because he was going the wrong way.
Wow.
And my mom. Absolutely intrepid traveler when she could, and she's not let anything ever stop her before.
That's
she just
amazing.
Goes, including my dad. He didn't dare say no to her.
That is the kind of man you need to support that kind of woman, though.
Yeah, he was fine with whatever she wanted to do. He was okay with it. She wants to leave for 6 weeks, and he has to take care of the kid and run a business.
Yeah.
And there's 3 of us. That was fine.
One of the things that I notice is I meet a lot of women who come to me who are so wowed by how adventurous or fearless I am. And it doesn't mean I'm always fearless in those moments, I just do it anyway. But for women that need a little pick-me-up or a piece of advice, what do you say?
Don't overthink anything. Just go out and do it. If you have to do it little by little, like I live 25 miles from Denver, and if I needed, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do this by myself, I would go to Denver and try it there, try it in baby steps.
Yeah.
Because I think it's lack of experience for the most part.
Yeah.
That people don't have that, and they don't have mental experience in thinking like that.
Yeah.
So baby steps.
I agree with that completely. My first scuba dive ever was not with sharks. There were a lot of baby steps and a lot of snorkeling between now and then. Actually, what would you say is the most adventurous trip you've taken?
Generally the next one. Because if you're not traveling all the time, then the zoomies take part. It's like, how can I do this?
Yeah.
How can I possibly go to Timbuktu? I don't speak that language. I don't even have a clue how to get there, how to get from the airport to the hotel. I don't generally research hotels before I go. And so it's the next trip.
I love that.
And then once I get, it's like, oh yeah, I remember how to do this. No sweat, different language, you know, and it all works. Solo trips terrify most people. And that's pretty much all I've done are solo trips.
Yeah. Where have you been alone that you felt the most out of your element? Like it felt really foreign for you, which is an okay feeling, but
yeah,
you've been to some pretty wild places. I'm curious where.
Tripoli was a little unnerving because Gaddafi was really going after Americans, so that was unnerving. I felt very protected, but probably the most, not really the most exotic, but the one that affected me the most was Tibet. And the people that I met there are still friends many years later. That was a life-changing trip.
When was this? and why were you there in the first place?
It was my 50th birthday present to myself.
Okay. This was last year, right?
Yeah, last year, 21 years ago. It just happened 21 years ago. Because it was untouched. Pretty much completely untouched. People were terrified of me. At that time, I still had not had chemotherapy, so I still had white blonde hair, and it was longer, not your length, but longer. They were fearful and backed away from me in fear. And I learned how to say their greeting, which is the first words that a child learns. This is Tashe Dele. And it's a blessing. And they repeat it because it's ingrained into them. And then they would start to laugh.
Wow.
Because they spoke to that person who looks so different. And humor translates, not always. There was one time we were outside of a temple, and the people, I don't know if you know this, they will prostrate themselves across Tibet on a pilgrimage to Lhasa.
Wow.
Stand up, lay flat out on the ground, put their feet where their hands are, stand up, do that the entire length of Tibet.
Wow.
Because it's a pilgrimage to Lhasa. And we were outside of one of the temples, and the women were looking at me, and I'm not exactly 105 pounds, and I weighed more then. And the woman was looking at me, and she was laughing and nudging her friends. And I saw them, and they knew, and she went like this to my arm. It's big. And then I did my gut, I did my breast, and then I turned and grabbed my butt, and I went, we all lost it. And it was a moment of connection. So I was able to be the stranger who was from a different planet with the same humor.
Oh, I love that.
And it was a special moment. And all of Tibet was like that for us.
Wow. How long were you there for?
I was there for 3 weeks.
That's a good amount of time.
And we flew into sort of outside of Lhasa, and then on the way to Lhasa stopped at an orphanage. And the kids there are not really orphans. They're in an orphanage because the parents wanted them to have an education. They couldn't take care of them, or a parent was sick, and they would go back to families. And I brought stuffed animals, and then for about 20 years, I knit one sweater for each kid in the orphanage. And then my neighbor would ship them to the tour guide, who distributed it to all the other passengers on that year's trip, and they would take them to the orphanage.
I love that.
And it was cool. Then we went to Lhasa, where I drew a crowd because of the blonde hair. And we ended up driving to Kathmandu. And the highlight, for many of the people that were around me, was a man who could lift a rock with his penis. And it was a big 40-pound rock.
Go on.
Yeah, and he did. And everybody got pictures. But it was an interesting trip. It engaged all your senses all the time. And there was such a sense of peace.
Wow.
But you had to be careful, because if you were heard discussing the Dalai Lama, we were told not to carry a picture, because we would be arrested on the spot and taken from that spot to outside of Tibet and dropped off in the middle of nowhere.
Wow. Because
they were anti Dalai Lama and the Buddhist religion. If you had an altar and got caught, to Buddhism in your home, and you got caught, your home was destroyed, you lost your job, you had to give all the money back to the government, and you were expelled.
Wow.
and left in the mountains alone with no shelter, no food, no nothing.
Wow.
You were lucky if you had your family. In Lhasa, there were machine guns going off constantly, middle of the night, all day long, most unexpected times, just to terrorize people.
Wow.
Talked to some people talked to some Nam. And I was there with a few other people. We were selected to go listen, and with a translator. And we offered them every penny we had and every penny we could raise from any other Westerner. They didn't want it. They just wanted their story out.
Wow.
And They were taken into custody. 62 nuns were taken into custody, and they were raped with cattle prods, and they were tortured, and 2 nuns survived.
Oh my gosh.
And that was a constant threat. Yet they were willing to risk their lives to talk to us.
Wow, I have goosebumps.
Yeah, I do too.
The original question, the most foreign place, feeling like a foreigner, looking like a foreigner.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I looked like a foreigner sort of everywhere I went. I mean, Egypt this is back in February 1977, and the hair was long, and I would tie it back or I would braid it to try and hide it. And I always had kids coming up behind me to touch my hair. And I like taking candid pictures, street photos. I couldn't do it when I had a ring 6 deep of children around me. Now that I no longer have this white blonde hair, it's been pretty interesting not having the attention on me. And I can be in the background and I can take the photos that I want to take without drawing attention to myself.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting because for me, as a solo female traveler, it's all about trying to blend in everywhere I'm at. And I'm generally able to be very successful at it. But you went the opposite. It's not like you blended in and then you didn't blend in. You've had trips where it was like the opposite, where now you blend in. Is that something you like, or you're indifferent to, or does it matter?
It was frustrating when I couldn't take the pictures I wanted to take. I didn't want the attention on me because I was a guest wherever I was. And I wanted to be thoroughly involved in where I was. And you can't when you have a crowd of people around you trying to touch your hair or other things. And I sort of, it wasn't uncomfortable, it was just at times frustrating.
Yeah.
But you were always nice. I always brought pencils or pens or balls or something for children. And sometimes I could go away and then I was free until they told their friends. And I was stuck again. But I don't need to be in the center of things. Like when I was in Cuba, in Holguin, Cuba, I brought, my whole carry-on was full of school supplies, crayons and pens and pencils and a few toys, because they're kids. And I stayed in an Airbnb. We didn't share much of a language. You know, my Spanish is not really very good, and it didn't matter. I brought M&Ms. They were happy. I was their best friend, and they fed me every night. They fed me dinner. I'm not supposed to do that, and I said, only with the family. And so I was there with Mom and Grandma and the cousins and the girlfriends, and we had a great time.
That's amazing. Speaking the common language of M&Ms.
Exactly. Money talks, chocolate sings.
Oh, I love that.
So we learned that. But I had Tony take the suitcase to the school. I didn't need to be in the school giving kids these school supplies. The other thing I learned is Imodium is in desperate need, and batteries in Cuba.
I'm like, hold on, do you mean like Imodium? Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I gave them every bit that I had. I emptied my mouse and all my electronics to give them the batteries, because I was going back to Fort Lauderdale before I left for South America. I could stock up.
If you could articulate why, like why do you do things like that? I'm curious what your answer would be.
Because I can.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I'm privileged.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
If they're dependent, they take the Imodium and cut it up into quarters for a dose. Me, I need a 3-pack when I'm in that situation. They're desperate. I'm not. I am so fortunate.
We are so fortunate, yes.
And I've never lost sight of that, no matter where I've traveled. And I learned it at 16 when I went on my first solo trip, how privileged this country is in general.
Yeah.
And I've kept traveling because of it.
It gives you perspective around how much there is to be thankful for. And
oh my gosh.
Every trip I take, there is something new. I'm like, wow, I was always thankful for that, but I'm thankful for that in a new way now.
Exactly.
what you can't do, which is nothing.
I was going to say, what can't I do?
Exactly. We were talking earlier at lunch. That was one of the things I loved. There's so much satisfaction in doing the things that everyone tells us that we can't.
Mine was, tell me I can't, and I'll show you how. And there's a Chinese proverb that is, do not interrupt someone who is doing something you think is impossible. And
it's powerful.
Yeah, it really is. And I kind of reversed it, so look it up properly. But it's so true. You know, so many, you can't do that. Girls don't do that. Certainly, girls in the 60s do not take off on a solo trip for 3 months at 16.
Wait, actually, where was that trip to?
I went to Northern Ireland. And at least it was English speaking. And I came home so different that, first off, I smuggled on that trip. I smuggled a can of Guinness for my father. I don't know how I didn't get caught at customs. I also got caught for smuggling in Cuba. But I was very, very shy. I was bullied through school.
Me too.
I came back, I must have stood up straight or something, because I saw my parents walking down the concourse, and granted, this is the 60s, so they can do that.
Yeah.
And they looked me in the eyes and walked right by me, because they didn't recognize my countenance anymore.
Wow, I just got goosebumps.
And my mom does not remember that at all.
Wow.
I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah,
it's like,
of course not. She's your mother.
She's my mother.
Of course not.
But I had to rely on myself, and if I couldn't figure it out, I had to figure it out. End of story. If I didn't figure it out, I was not going to sit there and cry about it. I was going to figure it out, and I did.
Who would Pam be today if you didn't take that trip when you were 16?
Not a clue, because this is who I have always been. I have loved traveling since we were children, and we got packed into the car to drive to the New England states with my bratty brothers. And I loved it. You know, the game shows on TV?
Yeah.
Like the old ones where you had to pick a ceramic Dalmatian because you had to use up all the money. It's like, pick the trip. And I was like this from I can't remember a time I was not like that.
Wow.
And I've always had itchy feet.
It's in your blood.
Yeah. And my parents fully supported me leaving for 3 months.
Wow.
When I was 16, that was just before my senior year of high school, because I got out early. And I got support because I think my mom wanted to do things like that when she was younger.
I can relate to that. My mom is cheerleading me every day. She's so excited to see me adventuring the way I'm adventuring.
Would she ever go with you?
She has been coming with me.
Oh, yes.
Actually, I got to do circus classes with my mom. I got to see her do the splits on silks in Sarasota 2.5 months ago. It was fantastic. I mean, the look on her face was the best part, but she did it.
Oh my God. Now that is one thing I can't do. I do not have stretchy muscles.
You can't do it today.
And I'm not even going to try tomorrow. I don't need to do that.
Why did you get a black belt?
Because when I finally got harangued into that damn white belt, there was a progression. I don't quit. It's like, if I start it, I'm going to do my best to finish it, which is why I didn't want to start it, because I wasn't interested in that. I just wanted to stop breaking bones. I wanted to get my bones stronger, which actually happened in spades, which was great.
Yeah, that was the part of the story at lunch we didn't finish. Were you successful after getting your black belt and gaining that strength to not break bones anymore?
I have broken bones. I've broken a lot of toes in kickboxing.
Okay.
But, that's not unreasonable, I don't think. My bones are stronger. My bone density is improving, and it declines with age in any woman particularly. Mine is going the other direction, and the docs are blown away. They've never seen it.
Yeah.
So February, I get another bone density. So it does work. And once I got the first degree, I thought, that's it. I'm never going to go on, because you have to do,
Like, how did it feel once you got your black belt? Like, what did you feel in that moment?
it wasn't so much getting the black belt itself. It was that I stood up and finished the sparring. That I did it, that I did the 3 hours of whatever I was told to do.
Yeah.
When I couldn't even, the first time, you have to sit cross-legged when you're done. And I'm trying to lift my water bottle to take a drink, and I couldn't lift my water bottle. I used two hands and went and used physics and pivoted with my fingers to get the glass to my mouth. And the instructors all started laughing because I could not lift my arms.
Wow. Yeah.
And I had to wait. I had to go sit in my car until I had enough strength to drive home.
How old were you when you got your black belt?
I was 64.
Oh, so
almost
last year.
65. Last year. Yeah, last year.
Do you have a motto or a something you live your life by?
Yeah, it's sort of like, tell me I can't and I'll show you how.
I like that.
Just don't. I heard that my whole life. In high school, my counselor told me to go get a job at McDonald's, and I might one day amount to enough of a person to be a manager of a McDonald's. I have 2 undergraduate degrees, a 5-year and a 4-year degree. If you Google me and passive solar, I'm the first 4 or 5 pages of Google of the work I've done and the photographs and the articles and the buildings and the awards and all of that stuff that I left behind when I quit architecting. But it's like, go ahead, tell me I'm not going to amount to anything.
Unstoppable.
And I will show you. Because I know how to hit now. I know how to make a fist.
I have a feeling I already know this answer, but Pamm, would you consider yourself a badass?
No. To me, I'm just living my life.
Living your best life.
Yeah, to me, I'm incredibly selfish because I do what I want. I do when I want, except for COVID. I live my life. I don't worry about what people think.
Yeah.
Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, because I lived so much of my early life being bullied and told I was nothing, that I don't give a flying tutu anymore. So maybe I am when I take the sum total of stuff, but compared to what? Compared to who?
Pamm, I love your story. Thank you for sharing it with me. This afternoon has given me so much inspiration and motivation, honestly. It
Yeah,
really
right.
has.
You can fly a drone and I can't.
You know
Yet.
what? Yet.
And I just broke a rib.
Are you being serious?
Yeah.
No. What do we do?
Nothing.
Am I supposed to call someone?
No. There's nothing they can do.
All right. Well, we're at the end of the podcast.
Just give me a minute.
I am devastated that Pamm may have broken a rib after that conversation, but she's doing okay. I just checked in on her, and I hope you found some inspiration in her story today. She is unstoppable. You are unstoppable. We are unstoppable as long as we believe in ourselves and we do not listen to all the people, there's a lot of them, that want to tell us that we can't. If you found some value in today's episode, please be sure to leave a positive review or leave a comment below. It really does help to distribute this to more people. And please connect with us on social media. Our info is in the show notes below. Go forth, be a badass, and we will see you in the next adventure. Ciao.